Every morning at 10 a.m., Marcus Thompson would fire up the grill in his red and yellow food truck and begin preparing for another day of serving the 5th Street lunch crowd. His customers knew him as the quiet guy who made the best barbecue in the neighborhood, always polite, always grateful for their business. What they didn't know was that, before Marcus learned to cook, he had learned to fight. When a violent confrontation erupted outside his truck and innocent people were caught in the crossfire, Marcus faced a choice: stay hidden behind his counter or reveal that the humble food vendor was actually a decorated Marine veteran whose Purple Heart was hidden in a drawer beneath his cash register. Sometimes heroes serve justice instead of lunch. Welcome to the Untold Stories, where ordinary people reveal extraordinary pasts when courage is needed most. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden heroism and street justice, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. Trust me, this story will change how you see everyday heroes. Also smash that like button if you believe our veterans deserve recognition. Tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today, because stories like this remind us that heroes work on every street corner in America. Now let's dive into the remarkable tale of Marcus Thompson, a man whose barbecue sauce recipe wasn't the only thing he perfected over the years. Make sure you're subscribed, because we publish incredible content like this every week. Marcus Thompson's BBQ truck had been a fixture on 5th Street for 6 years, serving authentic Southern barbecue to anyone who appreciated real flavor and honest work. The bright red truck with yellow lettering had become part of the neighborhood's daily rhythm, arriving every morning at 10 a.m. sharp and staying until the last customer was satisfied with their meal. At 38 years old, Marcus was exactly what you'd expect from a Southern barbecue pitmaster. Muscular arms from years of lifting heavy equipment, a friendly demeanor that made customers feel like family, and an attention to detail that showed in every perfectly seasoned brisket and fall-off-the-bone rib. He wore a simple black apron over jeans and a white t-shirt, keeping things simple and focused on the food. What customers didn't know was that Marcus's precision with seasonings and timing came from 8 years as a Marine rifleman where attention to detail meant the difference between life and death. His calm demeanor under pressure, his ability to work efficiently in small spaces, and his natural leadership weren't just personality traits. They were skills learned in the most dangerous places on earth. Marcus had joined the Marines straight out of high school in rural Alabama, drawn by a recruiter's promise of seeing the world and serving something bigger than himself. After boot camp at Parris Island, he'd been assigned to the 1st Marine Division and deployed 3 times to Iraq between 2006 and 2010 during some of the fiercest fighting of the war. During his second deployment to Fallujah, Corporal Marcus Thompson had been wounded by an improvised explosive device while leading his squad through a cleared building. Shrapnel from the blast had torn through his left shoulder and back, but he'd continued fighting for 20 minutes until reinforcements arrived, ensuring that all 12 members of his squad made it home alive. For his actions that day, Marcus had been awarded the Purple Heart and recommended for the Silver Star, though he'd never felt comfortable with the attention or the praise. To him, he'd simply done his job, protecting the Marines under his command and completing the mission. The medals were locked away in a safety deposit box, rarely seen and never discussed. The transition to civilian life had been challenging for Marcus. After years of high-stakes missions where every decision mattered, finding meaningful work in rural Alabama proved difficult. He'd tried construction, factory work, and security jobs, but nothing felt right until he discovered his passion for barbecue and decided to start his own mobile food business. Marcus had learned to cook from his grandmother in Birmingham, who'd taught him that barbecue was about patience, respect for the meat, and bringing people together. He'd spent 2 years perfecting his recipes and saving money for equipment before launching Thompson's Barbecue, determined to build something that would serve his community and honor his family's traditions. 5th Street in downtown Montgomery was the perfect location for a food truck, close enough to office buildings to attract lunch customers, near enough to construction sites for hearty appetites, and positioned where college students could afford a good meal. Marcus had chosen this corner specifically because it reminded him of the diverse communities he'd protected overseas. The regular customers had become like family to Marcus over 6 years of daily service. There was Jennifer, the bank teller who ordered pulled pork sandwiches every Tuesday. David, the construction foreman who brought his entire crew for brisket platters on Fridays. Sarah, the nursing student who could only afford the lunch special, but always received extra sides. Tuesday started like any normal day for Marcus. He'd arrived at 6 a.m. to start the smokers, prepared the day's meat selection, and set up his serving station. By 11:30 a.m., the lunch rush was building with office workers forming their usual orderly line, construction crews taking their break, and college students checking their phones while deciding what to order. Marcus was serving Jennifer her regular pulled pork sandwich when he noticed 3 men approaching from across the street. Something about their body language immediately put him on alert. The way they scanned their surroundings, the deliberate coordination of their movement, the way their hands stayed near their waistbands. His Marine training recognized predatory behavior instantly. The 3 men were in their early 20s, wearing baggy clothes and baseball caps pulled low over their faces. Marcus watched them in his peripheral vision while continuing to serve customers, his mind automatically cataloging potential threats and escape routes. He'd learned in Iraq to trust his instincts when something felt wrong, and everything about this situation felt dangerous. "Excuse me, folks," the lead man said as he approached Marcus's truck, his voice carrying false politeness that didn't match his aggressive posture. "We're conducting a little business survey in the neighborhood. Mind if we ask your customers a few questions?" Marcus immediately recognized this as a setup, the same kind of tactical approach insurgents used before attacking. The man's 2 companions had positioned themselves to block escape routes while he engaged Marcus in conversation. Classic pincer movement, designed to control the battlefield and prevent targets from fleeing. Marcus continued serving customers while assessing the situation, his training automatically calculating response options and potential collateral damage scenarios. "Actually, we're pretty busy with lunch service right now," Marcus replied calmly, his voice steady despite the adrenaline beginning to course through his system. "Maybe you could come back after 2 p.m. when things slow down?" He was buying time, hoping the men would move on to an easier target, but their body language told him they weren't going anywhere. The lead man's facade dropped instantly. "Nobody asked you, soldier boy," he said, somehow recognizing Marcus's military bearing despite his civilian appearance. "We're talking to your customers now." He pulled out a knife and pointed it at Jennifer, who was still standing at the service window with her sandwich. "Starting with this pretty lady right here." Marcus's training took over immediately. The situation had escalated from potential threat to immediate danger, and innocent civilians were now in harm's way. Time slowed as his mind shifted into combat mode, assessing threats, identifying priorities, and planning his response. Jennifer was closest to danger, but there were 8 other customers within the potential kill zone. "Ma'am, please step back from the truck," Marcus said quietly to Jennifer, his voice carrying the authority of command without causing panic. She recognized the change in his tone and moved away immediately. Marcus then addressed the armed man directly. "Whatever you want, we can work something out. No need to involve these people in our business." The man laughed, enjoying the power he thought he held over the situation. "Our business is their money, phones, and whatever else they got. You just keep cooking, chef, and nobody gets hurt." His companions moved closer to the customers, one pulling out a gun while the other brandished a knife. Marcus realized negotiation was no longer an option. Marcus had 3 seconds to act before innocent people started getting hurt. His military training had taught him that surprise was the most effective weapon when outnumbered. and his position behind the food truck counter gave him tactical advantages the attackers hadn't considered. Time to remind these predators that they picked the wrong corner to terrorize. Marcus opened the drawer beneath his cash register and retrieved more than just money. Wrapped in a clean towel was his Purple Heart medal, a reminder of the day he'd been wounded protecting his Marines. Beneath that was something more immediately useful, a tactical knife he'd carried in Iraq, kept sharp and ready despite years of civilian life. "Listen carefully," Marcus said, his voice carrying the steel of someone who'd faced death before. "You have 5 seconds to walk away from here, or I'm going to demonstrate why the Marine Corps taught me hand-to-hand combat." The lead attacker laughed, but his companions looked uncertain. They'd expected easy victims, not resistance from a food truck owner. The lead man made his first mistake by turning his attention away from Marcus to threaten Jennifer again. "Shut up and start cooking, or your girlfriend here learns what sharp feels like." That threat sealed his fate. Marcus had sworn an oath to protect innocent people, and that oath hadn't expired when he'd taken off his uniform. Marcus vaulted over his counter with the fluid motion of someone who'd spent years moving through combat zones. His first target was the man threatening Jennifer. A quick strike to the wrist disarmed him, followed by a knee to the solar plexus that dropped him to the ground, gasping for air. The knife clattered away across the pavement. The second attacker tried to raise his gun, but Marcus was already moving. Years of close-quarters combat training kicked in as he closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed the man's wrist, and used leverage to redirect the weapon away from civilians. A precise elbow strike to the jaw ended that threat before a shot could be fired. The third man, seeing his companions neutralized in seconds, tried to run. Marcus let him go. His priority was securing the weapons and ensuring no one was hurt, not pursuing fleeing criminals. He quickly gathered the dropped knife and gun, made sure they were safe, and checked on his customers who stood watching in stunned amazement. "Everyone okay?" Marcus asked, his voice returning to the gentle tone his customers knew. Jennifer nodded wordlessly, her sandwich still clutched in her hands. David, the construction foreman, stared at Marcus with new understanding. "Man, where did you learn to move like that?" Marcus smiled. "I used to work in customer service overseas." Police sirens were already approaching. Someone had called 911 during the confrontation. Marcus calmly returned to his truck and retrieved his Purple Heart from the drawer, pinning it to his shirt before officers arrived. He wanted them to understand immediately that they were dealing with a decorated veteran, not a vigilante who'd escalated a simple robbery. Officer Martinez was the first to arrive, weapon drawn but lowered when he saw Marcus standing calmly beside 2 subdued attackers. "Sir, can you tell me what happened here?" Marcus explained the situation clearly and concisely, his military bearing evident in every word. The Purple Heart on his chest told its own story about his qualifications to assess threats. Detective Williams arrived 10 minutes later and took Marcus's full statement. "Mr. Thompson, these men are wanted in connection with 6 other robberies in the area." "You probably saved lives today," Marcus nodded solemnly. "Detective, I took an oath to protect people. That oath doesn't have an expiration date." Word of the incident spread quickly through the neighborhood and beyond. Local news crews arrived within an hour, wanting to interview the hero food truck owner who'd stopped an armed robbery. Marcus was uncomfortable with the attention, but understood that his story might inspire other veterans to use their skills to protect their communities. Jennifer approached Marcus after giving her statement to police. "I had no idea you were a veteran," she said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for protecting us." Marcus smiled gently. "Ma'am, I've been protecting this corner for 6 years. Today, I just had to do it differently." She hugged him tightly, understanding that her regular barbecue order had always meant more than food. The story made national news by evening. Marine veteran uses combat training to stop armed robbery at food truck. Read headlines across every major network. Marcus's phone rang constantly with interview requests, but he declined most of them. He'd done what any Marine would do, protected innocent people from predators who thought they could terrorize his community. David, the construction foreman, brought his entire crew to Marcus's truck the next day. "Lunch is on us," he announced. "From now on, you've got customers for life." Other businesses on 5th Street began promoting Thompson's BBQ, understanding that Marcus wasn't just serving food. He was serving as a guardian for their shared neighborhood. The mayor of Montgomery presented Marcus with a key to the city during a ceremony at his food truck the following week. "Marcus Thompson represents the best of our veterans and our community," she said. "He's shown us that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off. It just takes different forms." Marcus framed his Purple Heart and hung it inside his truck where customers could see it. Not for pride, but as a reminder that the men and women who had served their country were still serving in different ways. Every veteran deserved respect and recognition for their continued dedication to protecting others, whether overseas or on street corners. The 3 attackers were sentenced to 15 years in prison for armed robbery and assault. During the trial, the prosecutor noted that Marcus's military training had prevented what could have been a tragic outcome. "Mr. Thompson's actions saved lives that day," she told the court. "His service to our country continued to protect our community." Thompson's BBQ became more than just a food truck. It became a gathering place where veterans could find community and civilians could show their appreciation for those who had served. Marcus began hosting monthly events where local veterans could eat for free and share their stories with community members who wanted to understand their experiences. Marcus Thompson proved that military service creates lifelong guardians who continue protecting their communities in whatever capacity they can. Whether serving barbecue or serving justice, his commitment to others never wavered. His story reminds us that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear aprons and serve lunch with a side of safety. Marcus Thompson shows us that true warriors never stop serving their communities. If this story of everyday heroism and veteran courage moved you, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the Untold Stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear about real American heroes. These stories matter, and your support helps us honor our veterans. Thank you for watching.